Okay, welcome back. Our penultimate presentation for the day, and indeed the event as a whole. So we've got a return visit from Danny Singer from Noetica. Hi, Danny. Danny's going to be taking a tour through skill and ability-based routing engines. So without further ado, I shall leave the stage, exit stage right, and hand over to Danny.
Hello, good afternoon. I hope you still have a little bit of attention left after all these interesting sessions. I'm going to try and make it as light as possible. What I'm going to try and talk about today is some new technology we've launched quite successfully in the last couple of years, which uses an element of technology to provide you an unfair advantage, and I'll explain in a second what this unfair advantage may be. First of all, a bit of an introduction. I run a company called Noetica. It's a British contact center software company. We've been around for about 24 years, and we provide agent productivity tools, predictive dialers, and telephony platforms. We like to do things slightly differently, and we like to focus on constant innovation if we can. And we try to make sure that everything we do is not just a Me Too type of product. So this is why we're introducing this new technology, where we've basically taken something that's relatively old and we've turned it into something new. This is what we called it. So we abbreviated like this. We call it SABRE. And let me start from the beginning. The story starts with a very old and tried and tested technology called skills-based routing. This has been around forever, ever since call centers have been around. It's very simple. I'm sure all of you know what it does. It's used to route mainly inbound calls, or solely inbound calls, and perhaps other media these days, to call center agents according to their skills. The idea being that they will get that the correct agent that has the right skills can handle any call that comes in. And this is basically based on typically on the number that's been dialed by the customer. And according to these numbers, you can then route calls to the right agent. It's used to increase first call resolution, reduce average call duration, and increase customer satisfaction. Nothing new here. However, what we've done, we've tried to take this to the next level. And what we're saying is that agent skills are not binary. They can range anywhere from 0% to 100%. So let's say that we're looking at the skill of being able to, I don't know, speak French. I can be absolutely French illiterate or have no idea of French, in which case I have 100%, or I could be a native speaker, in which I have 100%. Now, there are all kinds of gradations in between. So also these ability levels, they can fluctuate over time. So effectively, I could learn French. So although I was 0 at the beginning of the year, I may have spent some of my lockdown time learning French, in which case my ability will now be 20% or whatever it is. The same things happens to contact center agents. They will start perhaps with a low ability level if there's the ability to sell, or the empathy level, or whatever the skill is. They may start at a low level, and then over time, as they gain in experience, their ability level would grow. Now, skills in our world don't just apply to inbound, which is typically where skill-based routing comes from, but also in outbound, particularly in predictive dialing outbound. And the idea being that if you've got more than one agent waiting for the next outbound call to be delivered to them, then the dialer could actually deliver the next call to the best suited agent. And I'll explain that in a minute, what that means. Now, what we can do with SABRE is that we can continuously adjust people's or agents' skills in real time. And that can be based on their current performance. So basically, you can look at the history of what they've been doing, their performance over time, or you can look at their performance today or performance this week, and see, if they have a particularly good day, their ability level will go up, and then the next day they'll come in with a hangover and their performance will be poor, in which case their ability level will drop. So the agents that have the highest ability at the time will be kept busiest. Therefore, successful outcome as the percentage terms will be maximized. So let me explain this with a little metaphor. And my apologies to anyone that hates football, but I'm going to use a sort of footballing metaphor here. We're talking about a penalty shootout, and we've got our team selected to actually perform, take the penalties. These are our agents, and they are rated in skill ability level. So we've got our best scorer here at the front. We've got our worst one at the back. So as we get connected calls, inbound or outbound, and they drop in front of the person who's going to take the next penalty, they have two options here. Either they will score, in which case their ability level will increase, and therefore they will go back in the queue at the high position, or they will miss, in which case their ability score will drop and they'll go further back in the queue to take the next shot. So the way this works is that it is the sort of dream scenario for a manager, whether it's a manager of a football team or a manager of a contact center. Your top scorers will be given more real chances, and this will result in more conversions. And as a result, with the same number of calls, inbound or outbound, and the same number of agents, you can actually achieve more successful outcomes, which means increased revenues. And I promise I've stopped talking about football now. So how does this work? It's a sort of closed feedback loop. It starts with agents being delivered call numbers according to their ability. So we start and say, look, I've got my star agents. They will be at the front of the queue most of the time. If they're busy, they'll be the next best one. They'll get the call, and so on. What happens is that we continuously evaluate the success of each call handled in real time. Either the call results in a good outcome or a bad outcome, regardless of what your contact center does. Then we, in real time, recalculate the agent ability score for relevant skill in real time. And immediately, using the available APIs, we can adjust that in the system, whether it's in inbound ACD or outbound predictive dialer. And the ACD and the predictive dialer adjust their call routing in real time, which means that as they come back to deliver calls to agents according to their ability, they will now deliver it in a slightly different order, depending on how this happens. And this goes round and round and round all the time, meaning that you keep rewarding success and detracting from failure. So what is the innovation here? Well, I love this quote here from Thomas Jefferson, saying, I find that the harder I work, the more luck I seem to have. And this is really the kind of principle that this is based on. So we have basically taken this sort of concept of skill-based routing, which is traditionally associated with inbound, and we've moved it also into outbound. So predictive dialers typically relied on the assignment of agents to list campaigns based on their skills. The next connected call will always go to the longest waiting agent. So basically, if you had a list of French people you're going to contact, you will assign the French-speaking agents. So it will basically go, the next call will go to the longest waiting French agent. Now, bilingual agents will be assigned to both lists. Now, what we can do now is add another dimension of skills and ability related to performance. So, for example, if we're looking at a fundraising outbound campaign, we're actually raising money for the NHS or for some other cause, then all agents could be assigned a fundraising skill, regardless of languages. We can analyze the measure, we call that F, of total raised divided by elapsed time. And a successful call will increase F, which means that this grows by 1, while a long time with no success means that this increases, meaning that F goes down. So the higher the value of F, the higher the agent will rank for getting the next connected call. So you can see that, if 2, 3, 4 hours have passed and they haven't actually raised anything, then their score will go down. They'll get fewer and fewer calls. So what happens, going back to this quote, is that the better they are at what they're doing, the more luck they will have in getting more calls presented to them. This is basically the principle behind this technology. Another aspect of this innovation is that you can actually define a minimum ability scores. So basically what that does is that for each outbound campaign or inbound queue, you can define a minimum skill level associated with that queue or campaign. If an agent's ability level within that skill is not about that minimum level, they will simply be excluded from that campaign list or queue. Once excluded, they will still be able to participate in other campaigns or queues which do not require the skill or such high level of skills. So here's an example. If a campaign requires, again, going back to spoken French, to a minimum level of 50%, agents who speak French only to an ability of 40% will be excluded. However, they may be able to handle overflows. I have another example from an existing current customer using this. And they have two types of leads. They're actually selling insurance. And they have really good leads and they have slightly not so good leads. Now, what they do is that they will set a minimum sales ability to say 50, 60% on the good lead list and assign these agents to that. Now, if agents are performing well on that list, then they will stay there. If they are not performing well, their ability will drop and drop and drop until eventually they will no longer meet the requirement for the very good lead list, and they will drop into the not so good list. Now, they will have to perform there in order to be promoted back again to the good list. What that does is that agents value each lead a lot more than they did previously, because they know that, in the past they would say, okay, well, if I don't sell this one, there'll be another lead in a minute, or in 10 seconds even. What they do now is that if I don't sell this one, the next one could be a worse one, and I could actually drop my ability level to the point where I will not be getting this easier to convert leads. So anyway, just an explanation on how this minimum ability works. Now, don't get startled. There's a little bit of maths here to actually give you a sort of worked example of how this works. There's a formula here, and I'm not going to bore you with all the details of the formula, but it's a way of calculating the ability in real time. So we're basically saying that this is the basic formula. Say if we set a target for £1,000 collected by an agent, and we expect that to be collected within a day. Assuming it will be the middle of the day and the agent collected £500 with a multiplier of 2, then the score will be, according to this formula, we get 50%. Because what we are saying is that we want for somebody to be valued as 100%, we want a multiplier of 2. We want to basically be able to do twice the target. So if they just reach the target, they're just average. They're 50%. So this formula gives you a very easy way of feeding information into here and updating these abilities in real time. Obviously, you can use any formula. This is why the system is so open. You can define your own, and depending on what your contact center does, it could be adjusted over time. So you may argue that this is not fair, and you may argue that you are penalizing agents for actually not being very effective. So isn't this a little unfair? Wouldn't less experienced agents be at a disadvantage? What if an agent just had a bad day? How can mediocre agents improve if they don't get a chance? Well, despite appearances, this is actually a very fair system. A new agent will start with an ability score roughly at the median of their team. If their ability score drops, which is quite likely to happen initially, they will get fewer calls and longer wait times, but will value each call more and they will try harder. and each successful call provides an immediate reward and incentive. Most importantly, an algorithm doesn't have favorites. What the problem that a lot of agents had in the past is that if their ability levels were judged by a human, then that human would be clearly not always particularly objective. They could be influenced by all kinds of factors which are outside their performance. In this case, this is done by a machine, which basically means that the machine is not affected by some kind of bias. Let's look at a worked example. So at the start of the day, we have two agents starting work. Agent A with a starting skill score of 70, which is this one, the green one, and the average wait time 15 seconds between calls. Agent B starting with a skill score of 50%, average wait time 23 seconds between calls. And this is basically reflected by the fact that this agent is favored in delivering new calls to them. After an hour, agent B has a successful call, made a sale or a donation or whatever it is that they need to do. So her score would increase to 60%, agent B. So what we're seeing here is that this is this point here. So her skill will grow to 60%. Her wait time will drop to 18 seconds. Meanwhile, agent A made no successful calls. Her score will actually drop to 60%. And the wait time will be equal to agent B's. As we can see, the wait time is roughly a mirror image of the score. So basically, the higher the score, the lower the wait time. This is another visual illustration of how this works. So this is a distribution of ability scores in your contact center. So let's say most agents are somewhere around the middle of the ability range. You'll have some laggards, you have some champions. What we're doing here is that we are introducing a bias to the distribution. Now, what will happen normally is that the distribution of calls will be even. So the champions and the laggards and the middle will all get roughly the same number of calls. What we're doing here, we're actually tilting it in favor of the ones that are in the top half of the ability level in favor of those that are in the bottom half. Now, working here an example of the commercial benefit of this technology. So let's imagine a fundraising contact center again, raising donation for a good cause. We've got 100 agents handling 50 live calls per day each, an average donation of £25, a current conversion rate of 20%. That means that every fifth call results roughly on average in a donation. 50% of agents have a conversion rate of 25%, and the other half 15%. The total raise per day, if we do this calculation, will be £25,000. Now, once we introduce SABRE, the agents with the higher conversion rates will get more calls, say 20% or more. The higher ability agents will typically average a larger average donation, say £30, while the lower ability ones will average £20. So a simple calculation, which I won't bore you with, means that the total raised per day will be 28,500. So the net gain, just by using this technology, will be an additional £3,500 a day, a 14% boost in revenues, or $750,000 per year, just by introducing this technology. So to summarize this, we can have the same number of agents, the same number of call attempts, the same number of records, the same level of administration, yet a very significant increase in revenues. What does it mean? Your costs remain static, your revenues are increased. That means a higher bottom line. There's another aspect to this, which is just as interesting as the technology itself, and this is the psychological aspect of it. And we can use this to introduce a quite an exciting level of gamification to this whole process. And the idea of gamification here is that an agent is presented in real time with their current ability score and a lot of other information. So they can see that today they've raised a certain amount of money, they made that many donations, and also a little bit of an incentive. Say you need 2 more hits today to be in the top 10%. Or, there could be another kind of incentive there, you are dropping below the average or you're above the average and so on. You can have the performance graph here, and you can actually show them how they're doing in relation to everybody else. You can say the top score at the moment is 83%, you're at 74, so you're not that far. Your current average score is 57%, so you're above that. The time since last hit, so there's been 46 minutes since your last donation, successful donation. The team hit average is 3.56 donation. You are above that. The team average raise is that. Your current position in the team is your number 12 out of a team of 50. The wait time average is 21 seconds. Your wait time is 14 seconds. That means you're getting more calls than the other 38 people that are below you in the team. So by doing that, agents can actually monitor their own performance in real time, and they can get encouraged while they're doing well. They can also be incentivized to actually do better if they see that they're falling behind. So there is a lot of psychology here, and allowing agents to see themselves how they're doing in comparison to others in that team. Now, SABRE is not just for outbound, it's not just for inbound, it's for both. When deployed in an inbound context, it integrates seamlessly into our voice platform, where you can assign skill conditions to inbound queues, assign minimum skill ability level to each inbound queue. You have the ability to define different ability levels for different overflow stages. So you can basically say, I have my one team that needs to have ability 50%, and then the second team will have a lower ability. I'm going back to my spoken French one. The primary team for a specific queue may require a minimum of 75% ability for the skill spoken French. However, the secondary overflow team may require a minimum of 50%, and the tertiary team only 30%. So basically, I'm prioritizing it in that way. So going back to what we do, this is just one element of all the innovations that we produce here at Noetica. We provide technology that's basically in 3 main areas. 2 days ago, I was talking about human process automation, which is, our way of basically mapping complex business processes in the contact center, and what used to be known, called scripting, which is now a lot more advanced than that. We have our own patented dialers, and also our very own voice platforms that include all the sort of technology that you would expect to go with a modern telephony platform. We have several other technologies which may be of interest, particularly in the outbound area. We are the first ones to be able to deliver highly efficient predictive dialing with 0% abandoned calls. That means it is fully compliant with Ofcom, particularly after the 2017 regulations, which basically are much stricter and remove the sort of safe 3% limit that was accepted before then. We also have another patented technology called live person detection, or LPD, that uses artificial intelligence techniques to detect all type of answering machines and voicemails safely and accurately with absolute 0 silent calls. Again, a winner with Ofcom, keeping you safe from any kind of inquiries from the authorities. And finally, we also have an older patent called script-aware predictive dialer, which uses the interplay between the process mapping or human process automation I mentioned earlier, and the dialer to actually allow high-performance predictive dialing for teams as small as 6 agents. So we keep innovating. We try to bring new things to the market. SABRE is one of those, and we have been extremely successful with that. It's actually delivering exactly as we expected it to, and we are very happy with the way it's performing. So that's all I wanted to say today. I think it's back over to Jonathan to take over. Thank you.